Nah, yo, switch that back. Whatever you did, switch that back.
You've got mail.
All right. So, welcome back, tribe. It's the boy, Mind Over Matter. And today on Mom's Couch, we have the very talented Samantha Liana Cole, hailing all the way from Toronto. This model, actress, actor, whatever she wants to be, is getting right down to it with the tribe. And she's going to be dropping some gems on us today on the topic of relationships. Just to make sure that these questions were up to par, I actually ended up consulting 6.5, and y'all know what that half means. 6.5 of my closest female friends in order to advise and counsel me and proof these questions to make sure that they are up to standard for our guest today. So with that out of the way, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Samantha Liana Cole, as this young gentleman has just expressed. I'm an actress from Toronto, currently living in Vancouver, and
Awesome. So in my, humble research, I found out you grew up in a Jamaican household. Do you want to talk about how that was and how that defined you?
I grew up in a Jamaican household. I don't know, I just feel like it was just very, very funny. Like, I just feel like Jamaicans are probably just the funniest group of people. I had a lot of freedom to do what I wanted. My family wasn't too strict. I grew up with my mom and my stepdad and my 2 siblings. And we grew up with like sayings like "una ear must feel." Like if my mom told me not to do something and I did it anyway and I dropped and broke up myself, she wouldn't like hold me or console me. She'd be like, "Well, una ear must feel," so that kind of life.
And what was your dynamic in the household? Were you the baby of the family, the oldest? What was the dynamic that you played?
I was in the middle child.
Oh, okay, the wild card.
Yeah.
All right. And how did you get into modeling and acting?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately. So like I have a cousin who unfortunately right now he's kind of living on the streets. He's a little like schizophrenic. But yeah, when we were younger, he was my favorite cousin. He'd always come over and make me laugh, and we'd always do improv games. So I think that's where I got like the acting bug from, like when I was a kid. And like growing up, I never thought that acting was like a real career. I didn't think it was realistic. I would look at actors on TV like they're not real people. So eventually, when I went to like drama classes in school, it was my favorite course. And then eventually, I guess I got into modeling. It was really random how I got into modeling. I thought modeling was more realistic. I saw this girl I grew up with. She was modeling, so I'm like, I think if she can do it, I can do it. So a friend of mine was at Walmart, and she was like, some photographer came up to me. He said he wants to do a photo shoot, and I set the date for like today at 2. But I don't feel like going. Do you want to go? So I'm like, sure. Not realizing that like that's not normal. So like I show up to the photo shoot now, and I looked horrible. Like I didn't do any makeup. My outfit was trash. And then like the photographer was getting so frustrated because they didn't know what I was doing. I was doing all these weird poses. And then at the end of the shoot, he's like, you look different from like when I first met you at Walmart. I'm like, oh no, that wasn't me. That was my sister. He just didn't feel like going to the shoot, so she sent me. And he's like, but yeah, that was my very first photo shoot. And then from there, like I networked and found websites where I could like network, and then eventually I found acting through. I stumbled into acting like I wanted to go to school first, so I don't know why, but my brother decided to like go sit down with an agency, an acting agency. He said it wasn't for me, but like I should go check them out. So I'm like, all right, check them out, signed with them, and then from there I just kind of like climbed my way.
Wow.
Yeah.
And honestly, with a rap sheet like yours, I feel like your arms and legs must be tired at this point. Speaking of which, that leads us to the next question. I mean, from all the way from A Sweet Christmas all the way to Batgirl, like, what would you say has been your favorite role?
Um, I always one of my favorite roles is like I genuinely love every single one of the roles that I've ever played for so many different reasons, but one of them that really hits home for me is this project that I did for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So I was the kid who got hit by a car and was killed. So like I was like I was the moral compass. I was the moral compass in the project, and then like that movie was shown across Canada in all schools, like showing little kids not to drink and drive. So like that just like acting for me is like that's my purpose, right? Like I want to be somebody who is a positive influence in people's lives. So the fact that I was able to be shown across the whole of Canada, like showing kids not to drink and drive, that meant a lot to me. So that's like the one project that like really is right here.
Mm, okay. And thinking about stuff that you haven't done or have done and want to do again, what would be your dream role and who would you have as, your dream castmate?
Such a good question. Okay, hang on. You asked like I feel like there was like a three-part question there. So like, what role would I do again? Is that part of?
So, is there a role that you want to do or that you haven't or that you have done and want to do again? And then the second question is who would you have as, a castmate?
Okay. So I played Enchantress in a show called DC Legends of Tomorrow. And when I was booked for it, there's the different titles of roles, right? So like you can either be cast as like an actor, which is like probably have like 7 lines in the whole thing. There's principal, then there's recurring, then there's series regular. Series regular is obviously like where you're like the lead, one of the leads throughout the whole season, right? So I was booked as possible recurring. So that means that depending on, there's different variables as to why I would come back, but they booked me as possible recurring, and I haven't been brought back, and I would love to because I played a superhero, and I feel like everyone's dream to play a superhero. But yeah, so that's a role that I would love to go and dig more deeper into. And my dream castmate, growing up, I've always admired Angelina Jolie. So her, but also Viola Davis. Like as an adult now, like discovering like Queen Viola Davis. I just want to play her daughter. And I had an audition recently where I auditioned to play her daughter. The roles like that, like you can only dream of booking. They're probably gonna go with somebody like what's her name, Letitia Wright or something. I don't know, somebody like named or something. It's possible, but like you can only dream of getting a role like that. So like I would love to play Viola Davis's daughter. My lip is reaching up. I look like I'm glowing.
Sunlight definitely busting over there. All right. So, how have you been spending your quarantine this past year?
Learning a lot. Drinking more than usual. Not alcoholically, but like drinking more than I normally would. Just because I have so much time to myself. So having fun. With my I have a small circle of friends, so I hang out with them a lot. I spend a lot of time reflecting, journaling, meditating, reading, creating. So like I play the guitar, learning the guitar, I write music. I'm always just trying to grow, like as an artist, but also like as a human being, which the two go hand in hand. What else have I been doing? I'm a bit of like, I'm an ambivert. So like a lot of the time I don't feel like leaving my house, but I have to push myself like, yo, let me go pick up this bike. Let me go for a bike ride. So like, I'm always just trying to do something new, something that'll, grow my psyche and just, self-development type things.
Okay. All right. Now that we're done with those seat warmer questions, it's time for the real deal Holyfield. First things first, are you seeing anybody special?
I am not seeing anybody special.
Ooh, okay. Follow-up question. Why not?
Throughout my whole dating history, I feel like I've just kind of always been a serial monogamist. I jumped from like long-term relationship to long-term relationship. not even intentionally, it just kind of happens. And I realized like a couple days ago, I'm like, yo, I feel like I've never had to, like the hardship of getting over an ex.
Yeah.
Go through that too tough, because I always find somebody to replace them not too long afterwards. So now that I'm an adult, I know exactly what I'm looking for in a partner. And I'm looking for something long term, something extravagant, something special, right? So I'm not jumping into the first person who is interesting. I'm waiting for like that special somebody.
Okay. You answered a couple questions there. All right. What would you say your last relationship taught you?
He was a great guy. He taught me that a trying man is everything, but if you're not compatible, it just won't work. Like, and I think that's why it didn't work out, right? Like I would express certain issues with like, within the relationship, and he'd either like shut it down, or he'd like cuss and say like da 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 da. But then he would always kind of come back and be like, you know what, I thought about it, you're right, here's how we can compromise or whatever. And that meant so much to me. Like it was really special, compromising and understanding and communication. But we just weren't compatible. So I learned that like a trying man is everything. It really does mean a lot, but if you're not compatible, then you can't force it.
I might add that to my list of C words. You said two of them. You said compromise, and then you said communicate. But I might add compatible, because that's a chef's kiss right there. So what's been the worst dating experience that you've had? It could be either an experience dating somebody, or just a date that you got taken out on that was just
So I've tried Tinder a couple times, and I went on a date with this guy who, I mean, he seemed cool. He was good looking. He kind of looked better in his pictures, to be honest. But yeah, so like we went out. We had a great time, and then at the end of the night, he like expected a kiss, and I wasn't feeling that. Like just because like we have a good time, that doesn't like guarantee a kiss. Like there's no blueprint for that. Like either the sparks are there for that to happen, or they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And he like kind of fought me about it. He's like, why not? I'm like, because I don't feel like it. And like we had an argument about it. I'm like, yo, are we seriously having an argument about it? And then he was like, so I'm never gonna hear from you again, right? I'm like, I'm not. But like, you know what I mean? Like, why did we have an argument about why I didn't feel like kissing? You know what I mean? And that was recent. That was like maybe, I think that was like 2 years ago. That was awkward.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely starts to go down the drain chemistry wise when they start debating on whether or not you should or shouldn't do things that you've already answered.
Yeah.
Oh man. So moving on from that topic, what effect do you think that quarantine has had on relationships?
Man, I have no idea. That is such a good question. I don't know. I can only speak for
myself. Do you
myself.
feel like it's altered your relationships?
I think so. Yeah, it's an interesting thought, because like everything that we go through, like this generation, like we're drastically changed. Like we're completely transformed because of the pandemic. Like it's just part of our life, and we don't need, like, it's just. So okay, how it's affected me. I don't think I would have realized. Like there was something that I discovered. I don't even know if I don't know if I want to go that deep.
This is what this is for, getting that deep, specifically on this topic.
So I don't know if this was because of the pandemic, but during this time, I discovered Megan Good and her husband's story. Right? And have you heard of that story?
No, enlighten us.
So Megan Good decided, like, after like a really bad relationship, she decided she's gonna go celibate and just like, you know, speak to God and like, find herself. And then she found, like, long story short, she found her husband, who was also celibate. He's been celibate for like 10 years, and so I found that story and I was inspired by that. And I'm not sure I would have discovered that story and, you know, had it inspire me the way it did, had the pandemic not have been a thing. But like, I don't know if that's correlated. You know what I mean? But that's like a whole other,
Mm,
that's a whole other discovery and like some stuff that I got going on for myself. But yeah. So like quarantine, when I was, so I was in a relationship during the quarantine last year, and it just made me realize, like, to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want to take time to really get to know somebody. You know, like, you don't want to just jump into having sex with them because that can cloud your vision. Like, because like, when sex is good, it's like, yeah, everything's great. And then you don't realize, like, I don't know, maybe months later, years later, that's like, I don't really like this person, you know? Because like
yeah.
10, 20, 30 years later, like, what else do you have that's in common? Like, what else do you guys talk about? So it's so important to like really get to know somebody. Um, Taking sex off the table if need be. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if I would have discovered any of that without being in the pandemic, maybe, but that's my experience.
Wow. Do you think your parents' generation would have handled being in the quarantine better than we did?
Like, while they're younger.
Yeah, like, because think about it, their whole generation was based on, taking it slow, or at least taking it as slow as they could, and really trying to like commit to a lot of things if that could be committed to.
I feel like they would have had a lot more babies. I mean, I feel like that a lot of people are popping out babies these days, but like, I just know, like, the older generation, like, I speak to a lot of like my friends, and they talk about their grandparents, how they had their first kids at the age of like 14, 15, and they have like 10 plus kids. So like, I don't know, that generation had a lot of kids and they had them early. So put them in the pandemic where they can't go to work. um so that would definitely be different. But also, I think they would handle it better in the sense where, like, they wouldn't have, uh like, if the pandemic happened then, they wouldn't have had social media. I love like the old fashioned notion of like not having to learn about your partner through social media. Like, when you meet somebody, it's like, oh, what's your Instagram? And then you, like, you know, like, you see what they want you to see. And it's like, I would love to get to know somebody well before I even touch their Instagram. So like, for example, even when you're in the relationship, it's like, back in the day, you weren't able to like watch their stories. So now, like, they would have just waited to go home to see how their day was, and they would have that conversation. And now it's like, you done spent the day watching your partner's story. How does that, like, what do you have to talk about when you get home? You know, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff to talk about, whatever, but like, it's just different. It's not as potent, I guess.
Mm, I definitely hear that. Okay, so with that being said, I think the question on the audience's mind is: do you believe in true love? Do you believe that for every pot out there, there is a matching lid to go with it?
I definitely think there is. If the person chooses to have it, I feel like God has a plan for everybody, but it's your choice if you want to go after it, right? Like, He puts it in your heart, and you either go after it or you don't. So yeah, I think that's my response to that.
Okay. So, have you ever experienced love at first sight?
Nah, I've experienced lust at first sight. No.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
I've experienced lust at first sight. I have not experienced love at first sight.
All right, y'all kids watching, you heard it here, okay? You heard it here first. Lust at first sight, different thing entirely. Okay. So, there's some people who would argue that, a little bit of jealousy is good in relationships.
Um, I would say, like, balance. Um, I would say like a healthy balance, just like everything in life. Everything is all about balance, and just because like jealousy to the extreme, we don't have to talk about it because it's self-explanatory. But if a girl doesn't feel or a man doesn't feel like they're desired, then that kind of feels shitty. You know, you start questioning, like, does this person even want to be with you? I've been in a situation where like the guy was with, like he wasn't the jealous type. That's what he said, but he was also like, I'm not comfortable with my girlfriend ever speaking to exes. I don't care if they're friends or whatever. So he tried to dominate it that way, and it's like, but he claimed that he wasn't jealous. So it's like, and he also like didn't show any inclination that he cared. It's just he wanted to, like, it was his way or the highway. So like, I don't know, balance.
Okay.
Feel desired.
Okay, there it is. So, what do you look for, or what do you find appealing in a guy when you first meet them? What's some stuff that sets off the green lights for you?
I feel like I'm so particular. Very particular.
As you should be.
Yeah. So, in terms of physical, it doesn't dominate the personality. Like, I think physically, I would prefer a melanated man, tall, but more important than that, understanding, communication. I've had situations where like I meet somebody and they tell me that they read, and I'm like, yo, immediately if he reads, it's everything, because like that kind of trickles into like that type of personality, somebody who's like really in tune with like learning and growth and even spirituality. Like usually I find that goes hand in hand, and I'm all about like somebody who is similar to me in that sense, like where he's open to new things, he's adventurous, now we're like dabbling into like what kind of guy I'm into. So like like funny and adventurous, kind, like he has all these things and he's like the one. But I've never had the situation where they're all, you never get the whole package. There's always something missing. But for me, he's understanding and kind. Like there's those four things: understanding and kind, open to like, proper communication. Those are the things that like really that are core for me.
No, that's detailed. Like you said, we gotta, keep that high standards, because if you're not choosy, then are you really choosing?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, what would you say are some immediate red flags to you that make you go in your head, yeah, we're gonna stop this train right here?
There's certain questions that I've asked men, and I'm like, oh, it's made me a little less interested. It was so specific, like I'll ask like, okay, like a good one is like, I'll ask why he broke up with his last girlfriend, and like, so how a man speaks about his ex is important. He starts talking shit, like irrationally, like it was all her fault. That's a red flag. If he talks to his mom in a certain type of way, and I've had a boyfriend who like talked like shit about his mom. I'm like, that's your mom, bro. You're gonna talk shit about your mom. How are you gonna talk about me? That's. I mean, mom is up here. You know what I mean? Everybody else is wherever, but mom's up here. So like those are red flags for me.
I like that. I definitely don't trust nobody that don't love their mama. Yeah, that's a no-go. Friendship, intimate, otherwise, that's a no-go. You gotta have some like real, like crazy reasons. Like I need validation for you to tell me the reasons why you do not like your life giver, your female life giver. Okay. So you kind of touched upon this a little bit throughout the interview, but just for, I guess, the audience, what are some toxic or unreasonable traits that you've ever come across or encountered in your dating experience? Like for me personally, I think one of the ones that like I didn't mind at first until it was like too much was I had this one ex who would always want to know my passwords to all my devices, which I didn't mind because nothing to hide, but it was like she only did that when she wanted to accuse me of like doing certain things where I usually just be working, and it was like, all right, no more.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. There was a guy who, like, to this day, we're good friends. He's a great guy, but just got some stuff to figure out. We both had stuff to figure out at the time, so we thought better ways. But he kind of put me before himself. So I believe in, like, when it comes to relationships, it's like 50-50 in a way where it's like I take care of me for you, you take care of you for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't taking care of himself, and it was detrimental. Like it was toxic. And then when he would drink alcohol, this other side would come out of him. Where like he would verbally abuse me, and I think that tied into, like, I don't know, like this issue of like you just not loving yourself. If you can't love yourself, you're not able to love somebody else. You know?
Mm. Okay. And that's an excellent segue. You know, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else? Let alone love possibly more than one person at the same time. Do you think it's possible to be an affectionate lover of more than one individual at the same time, whether it's intimate or not?
I think it's possible to love more than one person at a time. I don't I can't speak for anybody else in terms of being in love with more than one person at a time. I've loved more than one. I've loved two people at a time before, but I've only ever been like tunnel vision with just one in terms of like the desire to be with them.
Okay. And this is going to segue into, like, I guess, advice for those sort of situations, but how did you determine which one was which? Or how did you, choose the victor of the Hunger Games or the Thirst Games, as they were?
A lot of the times I follow my heart, my intuition. I try to put in perspective of like, who can I see my life? Who can I see my life? Who can I see my life with? Who can I see my life? Who can't I see my life? What can you say? Like, who can I not live without? You know?
Okay, who can I see my life with, and who can I live without? I like that.
Yeah, and yeah, and then I also have to, like, sometimes it's conflicting because like the heart's saying one thing, but the mind is like, nah, man, you're not running the show. Like, the emotions want to run the show sometimes, but sometimes it's like, logically speaking, this person isn't right for you. And I've had to have that conversation with myself as well.
Okay.
So like that actually did happen, and I chose neither.
Wow.
I chose me, and decided to do me. Wait for the right.
Okay. I did not expect that answer. So our audience members of the tribe, sometimes it could end up being neither person. Nobody. Choose yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's just get down to the cool down questions then. First one is, what is your love language, or what are your orders of love language?
My love language is, the number one is words of affirmation. I need you to communicate with me on the regular. I need to feel loved. I need you to tell me that. I need you to tell me how beautiful. I mean, I know I'm beautiful, but I want to hear you say it. I've had guys, I've had like, and it's weird. Like, I don't know if it's intuition, but I've had, like, okay, so I was in this relationship with one guy, and I dolled myself up for him. It was quarantine times. I dolled myself up, like, like, we technically have nowhere to go, but like, I'm dolling myself
Right.
And he didn't say anything. He didn't compliment me whatsoever. You know what he did say? He's like, your sister's hair looked really nice today. And I'm like, oh, first of all, I know my little sister's hair looked nice, but what the fuck about me? So, and then but here's the thing. So I communicated that with him, right? Like, we had a little argument. Okay, sure. I was upset with other stuff going on, but like I communicated that with him. And moving forward, because he's a trying man, he's like he would make the effort to say, "You look beautiful," but it was so mechanical. It wasn't real. Like it wasn't.
Mm.
Uncompatibility came from, right? Like he's probably just not somebody who like. Actually, no, that's exactly what it was. He said that's his worst area in the love languages. He's not good at communicating. You know that among other things, but like he would. It was too mechanical. It wasn't real. Like I've had instances where men look at me and like whether I'm in a relationship or not. But like I'm in a relationship with somebody we've been in a relationship for like 3 years and still look at me like, yo, you are beautiful. And they mean that with their soul. So words of affirmation. The next one would be quality time. What are the other ones? Quality time.
This quality time, physical, gift giving, and
Okay.
so,
Words of affirmation, quality time, touch, acts of service, and gifts.
Oh wow. Gifts at the very end.
Gifts are easy, yo. They're so easy. You just pick
Yo, tell that to some of the girls down here.
I appreciate gifts, man. Like I really do. Like if the other stuff aren't there, then it's like it's not great.
Okay. What would be some choice advice that you want to give to some of your females that are out there?
There's a lot of females that I speak to these days, and especially at my age, it can feel like you're in a crisis because like you're touching 30, you feel like you haven't found the one, you haven't had any kids yet, the egg's going to circle up. Don't look at it as like a crisis. I feel like God has a plan for us all, and like he knows us, right? Like he knows where our optimal happiness lives. Like for example, there's roles where I'm like, yo, I didn't get that part and I really wanted it, and God could be like, nah, trust me, you thought you wanted it, but if you got that, you wouldn't have gotten this, or like, no, you really wouldn't have enjoyed that, or, you know what I mean? So like, what's for us will be for us. But in that same token, it's like, if you're looking for the one, put in the work to find the one, like, and not in a desperate type of way, like not in like Tinder, but like work on yourself first, and then you can manifest. Like speak to God and be like, yo, like I would really, really love to find somebody who's like really, special. So work on yourself and don't look at it as like as a crisis. Focus on yourself, and yeah.
Okay. What about for the fellas out there?
Yeah.
Like if you could give somebody, a potential person that wants to date you, advice before, the whole process begins, what advice would you give them?
Listen and communicate, because like I feel like a lot of men will feel a type of way and they just won't communicate what they're feeling. So like I feel like communication is huge. Same with women, like communicate. If you're in a relationship, communicate and compromise. Like two people want two different things, and that's where the friction comes from. But like how can we compromise?
Okay. My second to last question, my last cool down question. What advice can you give to people who are of the LGBTQ plus community?
That's a good question. I look at them like they're equals. So I feel like it'd be the same advice that I just gave for the previous question. But if they're going through, bullshit where people don't accept them, people are scrutinizing them, live your fucking life. Don't listen to people who are ignorant, who don't understand you. You're not for them. You're not going to please everybody. I'm not going to please everybody. I'm living for me. So that's my place there.
Okay. You survived the gauntlet. You know, the last question is always what's coming up in the near future for you that you can let us in on?
um, I am. I've got a show. I got an episode in a show. I'm not allowed to say. I'm not gonna say just in case.
Okay.
But I flew out to Montreal to shoot a show last month, and that was really really fun. Um, that's coming out in the next like 10 days. So there's that. Look out for that. And I am working on a feature film next month. So that'll be super super fun. Really really excited about that too.
We're gonna play 21 questions after this is over, just so I can figure it out. I hope you know that. But I want to say thank you so much for stopping through on Mom's Couch. For what you, the audience, is the first time ever, but what for us seems like a week of Groundhog Day. But again, I want to thank the wonderful, talented Miss Liana Cole for coming through and just spreading knowledge as always. This is Mind Over Matter, signing off with peace, positivity, and prosperity.
Love, prosperity. Yes, yes. Thank you for having me.